Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 12, Baby Steps. This channel, we do a quick therapeutic review because these couples, they give us great material to learn about relationships, learn about how interactions and communication works and how things can get so mumbled and jumbled in relationships. So let's get into it. First, if you are returning, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please join in on the conversation in the comments below. I am so curious about, from your lens, what you're seeing with these couples. Now let's get into it. First, we have Lindy and Miguel. Again, for the second episode in a row, they really didn't show much footage from this couple at all. And it seems like they're smooth sailing. I think that they're coasting just because, life hasn't begun yet. And nothing has really shook the foundation of their relationship or tested it as of yet, except for the benefits and last name situation. I'm curious if that's going to come up again, if Miguel is going to bring up Lindy taking his last name and how that conversation will go. But the experts, they decided to add on a extra complication with them having a baby and delivered it to their front door. Again, we see, I think the episode started up with Miguel cooking. Like, he is definitely living in the kitchen. And I also see that Miguel is taking a lead role in parenting this baby, spending nights as it's crying and the like. And Lindy is really kind of managing and soothing herself. She says she's really stressed when she was talking to the girls about the fact that the baby is crying every 2 hours. Like, this is something that is stressing her out. But Miguel is really stepping up to the plate as a father and being attentive to this baby. Miguel says that he is really in a safe, sweet spot with Lindy. That one, he is really looking forward to becoming a dad soon. And also that both of them are each other's safe space. So we'll see. They did also play some intimacy games, as that is the theme of this episode. And I didn't see where they met with the therapist. So that's something that I'm like, what's up with that? I wonder if that happened. So I'm just curious about that. As the rubber meets the road, as decision day comes closer, my gut tells me that things will start to show themselves in this relationship, and they'll have some real areas to do some work to continue to build the foundation and trust in their relationship. So we have Morgan and Binh. I have to be honest. This episode, I was a bit frustrated. For two couples. This was one of them. And so we didn't see much of this couple as well in the episode. We did see their session with Dr. Pia. And Morgan is talking about how Binh has made her feel and how she feels attacked by Binh. Again, I feel like these are really big words to describe what Binh has done to Morgan. She stated that she needs Binh to really apologize and mean it. And I'm confused. I'm really confused because maybe Morgan isn't seeing what I'm seeing. Maybe it's a different lens, because I really felt last episode that Binh took ownership for every little thing that he did. Whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, he took ownership for everything and apologized. There's a part of me that feels like because Morgan has her walls up, she does have her protectors up, that she's almost decided that Binh is not a trustworthy person, that anything he says won't be received. And I really wanted Binh to say in that session, I've apologized over and over and over again, in fact, about what I've done to Morgan, but she hasn't heard me. And I feel like Morgan is being vindictive. That's the real person who is being vindictive in this relationship. But Binh doesn't have that voice. He talked about how Morgan's demeanor really reminds him of his father, and that he's scared. He's scared to talk to her. I also would have liked if Dr. Pia would have maybe asked Morgan to go into the next room and just to talk with Binh about his experience of Morgan just a little bit more, especially since he said that he's scared of her. Because what that would tell to me is that there are things that he hasn't said. There are things that are brewing within him, and they need to be said. They need to be addressed. Morgan stated that Binh isn't really meeting her vulnerably, isn't communicating his feelings to her. And we know why. He said it. There's not a safe space. There's not a safe space for him to really communicate with her vulnerably. And so I really feel like this marriage has come to a standstill. And I'm hoping that maybe that can be resolved next episode, because really doing this, like reviewing this situation over and over again, is just really putting Binh in a situation where he is continually trying to scramble. And even there, you can see that there's this frantic energy. There's this part of him that's very frantic, wanting to know, like, what do I do to appease her? What do I do to make her happy? When really he needs to also figure out what he needs to do in order to find his voice. And what does that look like? So I feel like this continuing to move forward in the way that it is really doing more harm than good. Morgan needs time and space to really sit with herself and hopefully get some insight about her. But I fear that because Binh doesn't have his footing to have his voice, there's a part of him that feels very stifled in that area, that she's not going to be able to really learn the lessons from this relationship, and that's heartbreaking. Next, we have Stacia and Nate. They meet with the therapist, Dr. Pia, and they give an update on how things have gone since the group session where they were working out this "do you love me or not" situation. And so Dr. Pia asks, hey, has this been resolved? And Nate says, sorta, kinda. As they were reviewing what things that they felt that they should discuss with Dr. Pia, Stacia stated that she wanted to ask questions about how to be able to trust more. And Nate took that personally. There was a part of him that took that personally, because he said for him, it's either you trust me or you don't. There's no ebbs and flows. There's no fluidity. It's either you trust someone or you don't trust someone. And Nate stated that he's going to get frustrated. He's going to get frustrated if he has to continue to prove to Stacia that he's trustworthy. And Stacia said, well, I don't know how I'm going to be able to trust you if I can't fact check what you're saying. If I can't, double check that what you're saying is true. If you said the sky is blue, I want to be able to open the window and say, oh, okay, it's blue. And I said, ooh, that's not trust. Like, if you have to fact check, if you have to make sure you see it yourself and then believe the person, that's not faith, Stacia. That's tattooed on your arm. That's not faith. That's not trust. If someone's telling the sky is blue, you say, okay, because you believe that they would be honest with you. Dr. Pia asked Stacia if she felt like control and trust were related, if there was a connection for her. It's a really great question. It's a very great question. Kudos to you, Dr. Pia. And she told Stacia that she's going to have to relinquish some control in order to trust Nate. And so she instructed them to do an exercise where she would be able to practice relinquishing control to Nate, and to do some intimacy question exercises as well. The reason why Dr. Pia's question was a great question, in my humble opinion, is because the way we protect ourselves from pain is by trying to control the situation. So we're talking about the parts that we saw earlier in the season. There's a part of her, right, that was demanding that he tell her that he loves her, right? There's also a part of her that was trying to push him to be more open and more vulnerable with her on her time schedule, because she is quick and fast. She knows what she wants, and she steps on it and moves swiftly. Nate is not. And so there's this part of her that was trying to control the situation by pushing him to move faster than what he's comfortable with. And both of these parts, this demanding part and this like pushing persuasive part, both of them are protecting a wound of her that needs the reassurance, that needs to know that she can trust Nate, that has experienced mistrust in the past. And how we do that is by control. And so we see that they get to have a little fun, actually a lot of fun, in this sex dungeon. And Nate has Stacia tied up, and they're experimenting and having a great time. It seemed like they maybe got a little bit too comfortable with the cameras around, but Stacia said at the after party that no, they were fine with the cameras being there, so they were enjoying themselves. They were free. Kudos to them. Since Stacia is in therapy, this will be a great thing, though, for her to explore this lack of trust, this part of her that has been wounded and doesn't trust people. She said there's not many people that she does trust. And so that's something for her to get curious about. It really is. One, I would maybe even like Dr. Pina to ask her, has Nate given you a reason to not trust him? Because sometimes there are some things that may be a concern. And at the same time, to get curious for her to be able to reflect on that for herself. But this trust issue is going to be an issue because we can't have a relationship without trust. And so if Nate feels like he's jumping through hoops again, one thing about Nate, he's vocal. He is very vocal. He was vocal about Alexis. He was vocal 2 episodes in a row. He's going to speak about how Stacia is making him feel. And oftentimes he has a part of him that can be a bit harsh, and lack some compassion, as anger typically does. You know, anger, frustration can sometimes be void of compassion and consideration. And so that is usually the voice that he uses when he is asserting himself. And so this can be explosive if Stacia does not lean into trusting Nate and being able to reassure herself. Next, we have Kristen and Mitch. And so the episode kind of opens up with Mitch talking to his neighbor, and he is consulting her because they have put a pause on their sexual intimacy and their relationship because there was a situation where he was becoming funny or joking as they were about to be physically intimate, and Kristen was very upset about this. And so she confronted Mitch about this, and now it's putting him in a situation where he said that he feels like he has to be serious about something, and it's making him feel insecure. And what I will say is that sometimes what happens is, if there is a part of us that feels insecure about physical intimacy, then using humor to make light of it, and even how he talked about it in their session with Dr. Pia, saying that, sex is not this big thing, right? So he's trying to calm the part of him that is insecure about sex and saying, it's not this huge thing that's put on this pedestal like society makes it. It's, it's just an everyday thing, and there can be funny moments, and there's all these other elements, things go wrong. And so he's trying to minimize sex as a way to protect him from the insecurity he feels about sex. At the beginning of their session with Dr. Pia, she asks them, do you feel that you trust each other? And both of them said, yeah, they feel like they both have trust for each other. There's a part of me that was a little curious about that, and maybe felt that maybe there were some parts of them that don't trust each other. Like, I do believe that there's a part of Mitch that feels or doesn't trust Kristen's ability to accept him, all of Mitch. I do believe that, and maybe he's not aware of that, and that's okay. I do feel like Krysten has that same part of her that doesn't trust Mitch to accept all of her and all of the things that make her her, that don't align with, the things that Mitch wants for his life. And so, yes, maybe you on the surface level trust each other to be honest with each other. And at the same time, there's some deeper levels of trust that I feel aren't there yet. And so they played this question game during the session, and one of the questions was, who do you see as your childhood hero? And Mitch talked about these superheroes and the male figures that he saw as a child growing up. And he said he even pictured himself as a hero as he was playing and doing his imaginative world. And so Dr. Pia reflected that, so there's a part of you that really wants to save and protect people in your life. And it really mirrored his experience of his father that we learned about last episode when they were in his father's apartment during the earthquake, and he said the bed fell on him and he saw his dad running like a hero. So it seemed like both of those matched well, and that potentially he was really talking about how he wants to be like his dad. Kristen talked about how her mother was her childhood hero, how she was a single mother and she pushed through so many things, and she was an immigrant, and now she is moving and shaking, and she's grown and built so much for herself. And so Mitch said, are you sure that's your childhood hero? Because you're talking about the things she's doing now. And Kristen became very upset. She became very upset at this. And Dr. Pia picked up on that. She asked Kristen, how did that make you feel? Because that's really important. That helps us to be able to navigate where the wound is by asking that. That's why therapists ask that all the time. And she didn't answer the question, though. She said that when someone's sharing a story with you, it's almost like there was a part of her that was telling him how she wanted him to respond, right? When someone shares a story with you, you're supposed to say, wow, what an amazing story, and be affirming, right? There's this part of her that's still waiting for Mitch to affirm her and validate her, which she talked about in last week's episode. And instead, she was challenged. And she was shocked, so she did get to an emotion where she said she was shocked or surprised that Mitch asked questions about her mother, because her mother means a lot to her. And that is one topic that she gets very sensitive about. Mitch really struggles in the area of affirming. He has a part of him that is critical and also leans into correction instead of affirming and validating. And so that it may be that he hasn't experienced a lot of that in his life. And also internally, that's how he feels, and he interacts with himself by being critical and by questioning himself. And so he does that in his relationships. That's usually what happens. How we treat ourselves and see ourselves is a direct correlation to how we're going to interact with others. Because even the last episode, when Dr. Pepper asked Mitch to list all the things he liked about Krysten, he struggled. He struggled for a moment. He pulled some affirming words together, but it was something that he had to put some real mental work into. The next question asked, what type of children do they believe they will have? And Mitch asked, you mean our children, the ones that we'll have together? Which was a very interesting question, so much so that Dr. Pia was like, what other children would you be referring to? And so I'm curious if he was joking, or if there's a part of him that doesn't see how their lives are going to mesh well and has questions about if they'll be able to build a family together. He did say that he feels like their children would be awesome and know that they're loved, and also have some structure in their world, because Krysten stated that she is the rule follower and he is the rebel. Krysten did state that she wants Mitch to continue to be more vulnerable, more emotionally open with her. And that's going to help her to continue to warm up to the thought of them being physically intimate again. I'm curious on how Mitch is receiving that. I'm curious if he's feeling like this is a demand, or if he feels like Krysten is again trying to change him. Mitch doesn't do well with requests. And so we'll see how he responds to this request. We do see that they did this exercise where they were playing with physical touch that wasn't going to lead to sex, but just playing with touch. I think that's so important for couples to have in their relationships, to build on touch that doesn't automatically lead to sex, but just creates a closeness, creates a safety. They were playing with hot wax and other sensations to really explore each other's bodies and to get to know what each other likes, because that's also a part of intimacy. So I like this exercise. It was something different other than the tantric yoga that they have utilized before, which is also great. But this physical touch with no sex really adds to safety in the relationship, because there's no pressure. There's not the pressure of sex that Mitch is worried about. And it creates a space where hopefully as they continue to practice touch, that he will become more comfortable, right? More comfortable with physical intimacy. It's great though to see that Krysten is still using her voice in this relationship. And I'm really hoping that Mitch will start to work on some of these spaces in his life that he has some insecurities, and even some spaces where he is rigid. These parts of him that are carrying these big questions. Will somebody be able to accept all of me? That's a really big question that a part of him has. And so he needs to sit with that. He needs to get curious about that and hopefully do the work to be able to accept all of him, all of the parts of him, because that is going to directly impact their relationship, or any relationship he has moving forward. Last, we have Alexis and Justin. Wow, oh wow, boy, oh boy. First, they are having this conversation or passionate discussion, as they told Dr. Pia when she came in finally at the nick of time, about Alexis going out with her friends. Justin was saying, hey, you go out with your friends every weekend. Every weekend. Yes, it's only once a week, but it's every weekend, and it's to the club. And there was a part of him had an issue with that, felt like that was a single lifestyle. And also there was another part of him though that had this question that Alexis didn't want to spend time with him, didn't want to be with him. But what wasn't mentioned in this footage, but was shown in the after party, was Alexis stated that another factor too as well is that Justin doesn't have a lot of friends in San Diego, and so she's like one of his few friends, right? And so where she has all of her friends here, he doesn't have as many friends. And so that also plays a factor in it as well from Alexis' view. Justin stated to Dr. Pia that he wants balance. He just wants some balance. That Alexis wanting to go out every single week there needs to be some type of balance in that, because that's very much a single lifestyle. Going to the club every week, that's a single lifestyle. And so Alexis stated, well, I hear you. And, Dr. Pia, you're going to hear Justin and going to say, wow, he sounds very profound and like he knows what he wants in his marriage. And I respect that. There was a part of me that felt like potentially this part of Alexis that doesn't respect Justin because he's so emotional, and even potentially doesn't have like her skills with communication, even though, okay, Justin communicated very clearly this episode, okay? Very clearly this episode. But because he is maybe he's not in the same skill level as her, that part of her that doesn't have respect for him was showing up in this conversation. And so like she came in to say like, and I respect that, but it seemed like he seems like he's really profound, right? And knows what he wants in his marriage. It sounds like he really does know what he wants in his marriage. He wants his wife not to go out to the club every week and wants her to prioritize spending time with him. That's what it sounds like. And he didn't stutter, Alexis. He said it with his chest, like he said it. Alexis stated that, she doesn't always go to the club. There's brunch, there's other things that she does, and it's just for a couple hours. It's not for a long period of time. She feels stifled, she feels smothered, and she wants this freedom that Justin talked about in his vows. Because that's what she picked up on, right? So he stated that he wants his wife to be free, like he wants to respect her freedom. And so she attached her meaning to that, right? There was a part of her that said, oh, you want me to be free? That means that you're going to allow me to connect with my friends on a weekly basis. And that's not what Justin meant by that word freedom, right? But that was definitely something that she kept bringing up, because for her, that part of her really attached to that word, right? And really got excited about that in the vows. And this part is using it now to get what she wants. Dr. Pia asked Alexis, tell me, why is it that going out every weekend is something that's so important for you, especially with such a short amount of time of being married? Ooh, Dr. Pia, another great question. Alexis stated that, hey, we spend so much time together, and we just been married for a month, and we just met each other, a month ago. And so, it's a lot, and I need balance, right? I need balance, and I need to connect with my friends. And so then Dr. Pia asked, well, why did you get married? And she said, well, for partnership and security. And at the same time, she does get joy. She gets joy out of spending time with her friends. Alexis also stated that Justin not wanting her to spend time with her friends is him being manipulative and controlling. There's this M word again that she used to describe Justin. I don't know her full experience of Justin. I only know what the footage that we see every week, right? And at the same time, this doesn't feel like manipulating to me. I see this as him saying what he's feeling. He feels like, hey, babe, you're going out every week, and I'm wanting to know if we can have some balance. It really sounds like he wants to spend time with her. He enjoys spending time with her. And maybe there's a part of her that doesn't. But for some reason, she's not being completely honest. Alexis stated that she feels like Justin is saying that it's either his way or no way. And really, it's not. It's really Alexis saying that it's her way or no way. Like, I'm going to hang out with my friends every week. Yeah, like that is what I'm going to do. And Dr. Pia even brought that to her attention. Again, I am seeing where Justin is communicating very clear with her. He said, no, this is what I'm saying. I feel like it's balance. We need balance. And you are still wanting to live a single lifestyle. Dr. Pia asked Alexis, well, do you feel like you really want to stay married? And she said, yes, absolutely. She is trying very hard, and she's a very committed person. Then she asked Alexis, do you feel like you're ready to be married to Justin? And she said, no, I don't think so. Dr. Pia said, and there it is. And I think that is the greatest quote, right? I think that there's this part of Alexis that she's not even truly being honest with herself about where she is in this relationship, whether it is the pressure of the cameras being there and wanting, not wanting to look like a mean person. Maybe it's parts of her that do appreciate Justin and doesn't want to hurt his feelings. And at the same time, this is the truth. This is the truth. And she goes on later to try to adjust what she said by saying no, if this continues to be this way, then no, I don't want to stay married to Justin. And while there's a part of me that wants to believe that, I have to say that her actions and how she is responding to Justin really tells me that potentially she doesn't want to stay married to him. And Justin responded, hey, I made up my mind. I have put her, or I was about to put her on my benefits. Like, I am ready to commit. And I see her as a catch and as someone who has worth. He said, but I am too. And I'm not going to be treated like an option. I said, Justin, okay. Speaking clear and speaking truth, right? Alexis then cuts him off and says, hey, I have taken in everything. I've taken everything that this man has thrown at me. He, with my dog and everything, I'm taking everything. I'm in this. And Justin said, hey, I gave my dog away. Like, I have also been in this. And then Alexis said, well, don't I get to say that I'm exhausted? Like, don't I get to do that? And so because things were getting heated, they were going back and forth, Dr. Pia said, okay, how do we build trust and intimacy? What do we do? So Alexis, and so then she asks Alexis another hard question about, like, what is it that you feel like has been a barrier to intimacy in your relationship? And then Alexis shuts the conversation down because she says that this is not conducive to her mental health, because these are unrealistic expectations for someone who has only been married to a stranger for a month. Dr. Pia asks, how is your mental health suffering? And she says she feels alone. She feels dismissed and unseen by both Dr. Pia and Justin because the situation wasn't resolved. There was no compromise, no nothing. We just went to a discussion about intimacy. And she also felt like she was being called an unfit wife. And leaving this all unaddressed is going to make them go to bed mad. And Justin said, no, the reason why we're going to go to bed mad is because you said you didn't know if you wanted to be married to me. That's why, because that hurt my feelings. This is more evidence that there's a part of her that's more focused about her wants and needs over Justin's feelings. And when she has to, meaning that she's done something that she knows is hurtful, she uses this like tone. There's a part of her that uses this tone that could almost seem like it's patronizing a little bit. Again, that part of her that doesn't respect him and his feelings, she'll say, oh, I'm sorry. She uses this like voice to apologize, and it can come off a bit inauthentic. I'm really curious about Alexis and how she handles conflict. There's a part of her that like dominates the conversation, right? That tries to dominate the conversation and steer the conversation. And Justin, he tries to speak his truth and tries to explain himself. And because she's a wordsmith, there's like a part of her that uses that as a way to feel powerful and feel in control in conflict, right? And so with doing that, though, it's a protective measure, right? Everything is protection. It's a protective measure, and it decreases the opportunity for Justin to be heard, for her to be in a soft space, to hear Justin, to see Justin as a human being, and that he is present with her. And so he did something pretty extreme, but I can't blame him. I really can't. Not saying that how he responded was right. I am not. I'm 100% not saying that. There is, though, a part of me that says, wow, after hearing your wife, who you really care about, say, I don't know if I want to be married with you, his response to taking off his ring, that's the way he's protecting himself. And Dr. Pia picked up on it, saying, well, okay, she's hurt you and now you want to hurt her. And I do agree with that to some extent. I also see how this is a way that Justin is trying to get Alexis' attention by saying, what you are doing is hurting my feelings. There's a part of him that feels like Alexis truly doesn't own that, doesn't understand that, because for him, it keeps happening. Same how she was saying a few episodes, like he's not making any changes, he's not growing. I am seeing some growth in the area of communication for Justin this episode. He communicated very clearly with her this episode. Whether she liked it or not, that's another thing. But he communicated very clearly with her this episode. Alexis stated that Justin never told her that he wasn't okay with her going out when she did. And Dr. Pia said, well, Justin, you said that when she goes out, you feel rejected. And so is it possible that you don't feel comfortable to communicate directly with her because you fear being rejected? And he said, in this situation, yes. And we know this. Justin is still growing in the area of communication. But if rejection is a sore space for Justin, and we know it is because his father rejected him, right? So that's a wound. That's a wound that he already has. And so he has protection. He has probably multiple parts of him that are armed and ready to protect him from that rejection. And one of them is not communicating directly. Like, oh, if I just don't say it, then maybe she'll catch the hint, or if I indirectly talk about it. But it kept happening, so he brought it up. Dr. Pia ended the session by stating that they both need to learn some new behaviors as married people, as Justin's going to have to learn to be more direct in his communication with Alexis, and Alexis is going to have to bend on connecting with her friends every weekend. And I'm going to also say that Alexis is going to have to be able to respect Justin's feelings and who he is as a person. She's going to have to learn to respect his voice. Alexis, later on in the episode, she surprises Justin by doing a pole dance, which she's actually never done before. So kudos to her for doing that on national television. And she even slipped, but she's okay. And Justin brought up a game. He said, how about we play this blindfold game where we both say how we feel about each other? And Justin spoke his truth. He said he feels like he's second to her friends and even her dog, and that she's not ready for marriage, and that she really doesn't want to spend time with him. And I was so proud of Justin in this moment. I have to say, I was so proud of Justin in this moment. I know these weren't easy things for him to say. And at the same time, I feel like because Alexis said what she said during the couple session, it gave him enough room, right, to be able to speak his truth. And he even continued to speak his truth with the gentleman as they connected, saying like, hey, I don't really think my wife likes me like that. I don't think she's attracted to me. I have initiated sex with my wife over and over again, and she's rejected me. And so Alexis, she shuts down a bit. She stated in her confessional that she feels like Justin isn't hearing her, and she has communicated to him over and over again how she feels about him. And I think what Alexis doesn't understand is that her actions are outspeaking her words. That's the issue. Her actions are outspeaking her words. Where she wants Justin to be honest, brutally honest with her, I'm curious if she's really being brutally honest with herself and with Justin. We do see at the end of the episode that they are having a huge debacle about the same situation, and how Alexis is now in frustration talking about her true feelings about what Justin said during the blindfold game. What I do not like that does happen in these episodes at Married at First Sight is the producer coming in to assist with conflict. If the producer isn't a therapist, if the producer isn't an expert, they need to be contacting one of the experts to assist. That's what needs to happen. I don't see this couple making it. This was a huge episode, a defining episode for Alexis and Justin, and I don't think that they can come back from this. I really, truly don't think that they can come back from this. Alexis says there's this part of her that's very hopeful and still hopeful about the relationship. I'm curious about that part that's still hopeful about this relationship. Like, I want to know more. Like, I want to know more about this part and what it's holding on to. Because even Keisha asked Alexis, well, what do you like about Justin? What attracts you to him? And she struggled. She did. She struggled to list things that she liked about Justin. She said that he was nice. She said that she enjoys their time together. But it doesn't sound like how a person speaks about their mate or their husband. So we shall see, as we have 15 days until decision day. Please let me know. Let me know what you think about these couples, especially the ones that are looking like, are they going to make it? Alexis and Justin. We know Binh and Morgan are a wrap, but I really hope that they end next week. Like, we don't need to see them anymore, and Binh doesn't need to be punished anymore. So I hope that they end next week. What do you think about Miguel and Lindy? Is all well in paradise with them? Are they going to continue to move in this way, smooth sailing? Will Stacia be able to trust Nate? Will she be able to relinquish perceived control? Because that's what it is, perceived control, because we are not in control. But will she be able to? Will she be able to trust Nate? Will Mitch and Kristen be able to come to some space where they are able to accept each other for who they really are? Will they be able to do that? We shall see. If you have stuck around this long, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.